Hi, this is Kurt Johnson, welcoming you to another Mindful Monday from here at Shawbucks, Jamestown, New York on Chautauqua Lake. You can't be happy all week if you don't start on Monday. Should you choose to be happy, life is choice. Today's a big day and event for Jamestown, New York. It's the grand opening of the National Comedy Center, giving tribute to comedy. Lucille Ball, we're the hometown of Lucille Ball. Lucille Ball was very famous in the 50s with her I Love Lucy, and it was, a big hit to come from a small town. And reflecting on Lucy, what jumps out at me is she always said, laughter's the best medicine. And so for me, when I think of laughter, that's one of the oldest forms of energy psychology. If you're unhappy and you want to get happy, laughter brings you back to happy. And that's the key topic for why I do Mindful Mondays, is to assist people in trying to be happy once all week, once all day, and life just seems to flow smoother. So for those of you that haven't seen a Mindful Monday, just to introduce you to it, it's based on what I call the Energy of M.E philosophy. Energy simply, everything's energy. We're basically just a holographic electromagnetic field. So the philosophy of the Energy of M.E is basically energy. The definition of energy is the ability to create movement. And it's just the awareness of what gives you energy and what takes your energy away. The purpose of me doing Mindful Mondays is to explain better what I call the Energy of M.E. And simply the definition of energy is the ability to create motion or movement. And I believe there's two energies that create movement, and that is fear and love. Love creates movement through compassion, kindness, etc., goodwill. And fear creates movement through shame, guilt, embarrassment, ill will. One makes you feel happy and one makes you feel unhappy. And so that describes energy, and the me part of the Energy of Me is, how does this feel? Do I feel good? Am I leaking energy or gaining energy? So mindfulness is the awareness, and the part of the eatery means that we're consuming. We're consuming our thoughts, we're consuming our food, and we're consuming environment. So simply put, the Energy of Me is what's given me energy, what's taken it away, and being aware and mindful of what you're consuming through your diet of food, thought, and environment. This week's topic's perfect. Laughter's the best medicine, and laughter's a return to feeling happy if you're feeling unhappy. To apply this to life, I could demonstrate it by visualizing a battery. You've got basically 5 components to a battery. You've got a positive pole, a negative pole. You have lead as part of the structure with cells, and you have a ground and a neutral attached. So to demonstrate this, if you view the positive pole as love, compassion, kindness, all the things that create movement that you look at positively, and you look at fear as negative, all the things that create negative movement through shame, guilt, frustration, hate, revenge, we often look at things as bad and good, like the positive's good and the negative's bad, when actually the negative's a return to love. It's part of the flow. So if you look at a battery this way, you can look at it like the body. Your blood leaves the heart, it circulates through the body, replenishing nutrients and sharing its oxygen. On the way back to the heart, there's a lack of oxygen, so it's kind of in a race to get back to the heart to get replenished. So just like when you hold your breath underwater, it's fun to be down underwater, but you feel the stress and you need to return to the surface. That's all fear is just a return to love if you look at it in this principle. In a view of a battery, when you're in resistance and stress, you're in a fear state. And too often in life, we're in the state of fear, feeling lack, limitation, the stresses of life, and we're not releasing them. And there's 2 ways to release stress. One is through the forgiveness of fear, which is part of the Mindful Monday, that I say all the time. Forgive the fear that gave rise to the action. I often say, forgive the fear that gave rise to the action within yourselves and with those around you, and that through the forgiveness of fear, you're taking away the dark energy of fear to attach to the ego. Because really, The ego cannot exist without fear because it wouldn't have anything to defend. And so for the forgiveness of fear, you keep the flow of energy moving, just like the outgoing and the return of your blood, the oceans, tides goes in and out, your breath. There's an inhale and there's an exhale. Just as with love and fear, they're both necessary to create movement, just like a battery. So when you get hung up in the negative pole, the outcome can be depression. It can be depressed mood, depressed energy, because you're leaking all your energy for your revenge, your frustration, your hate, your guilt, shame, lack, limitation, and you fall asleep. And if you look at the other side, so basically the neutral is the forgiveness of fear and or laughter. Just laugh. That'll shift your mood from depression to happy, and all of a sudden you're recharging your battery. On the other side of the pole, you have the positive, which is compassion, kindness. This is kind of dreamy, you feel good. Sometimes you feel ecstasy. If you have the negative being a depressed area, the other side of it, the opposite, the polar opposite is mania, manic depressant, just like the song Jimi Hendrix wrote. So if you're in the manic side, your head's up in the clouds, things get chaos and confusing, and it's because you're not grounded. If you think about it, a ground wire that works on a battery, your battery won't work in your car without a ground wire to the frame. So basically, life's the same way. For your life to work correctly, you can't just have your head in the clouds. You're just a dreamer. Nothing happens. You're not aware of the day-to-day things happening, where when you learn to ground the energy, that's why it's a green wire, you need to ground that energy into Mother Earth, Gaia. Think about it. We've been walking for all the years. We had leather soles. We're in constant contact with Earth. And now, for the past 50 years or so, we're not ever in contact with the Earth, which is the ground for our battery. And if you really view the battery, if you touch the two terminals together, you get that big spark. So you really can't ground positive, the negative energy through the positive side. Because if you ever touch the positive to the frame of your car, you get a spark the same way. You need the negative to ground in to the frame of the car. So what happens when you begin to be a dreamer, and you might be an artist, you might be what they call a cultural creative, but you're just stuck in the dream world, when you begin to ground that energy by walking barefoot, by being in nature, by making contact, whether you buy the earthing sheets or the earthing pads that plug into the ground plug in your outlets that's literally going to the ground, you become a visionary. The definition of a dreamer, your head's in the clouds. The definition of a visionary is someone with their head in the clouds while their feet are grounded on earth. And that's how the system seems to work. The other thing you have in a battery is you have the fluids, just like your body has fluids. To keep things flowing in harmony, when you're stuck up on whichever pole you're hooked on, if you're hooked on the stinking thinking negative pole of fear, lack, limitation, all those forms of fear, or on the other side, of the positive, you're in disharmony. So basically, through laughter and the forgiveness of fear, you keep the flow of energy moving, you're grounding to be a visionary, and you're in harmony. You need both poles of the battery to work properly, just like your body does. Just like it's the ebb and flow, that you exhale air and you inhale air. The same thing works for positive and negative, being love and fear. So harmonizing manic depressant is basically living in ecstasy, which is happy. When you're unhappy, you realize you're unhappy, you're leaking energy, you laugh, or you forgive the fear that gave rise to the action within yourself or in others, and it's a return to being happy, love. You hear the word namaste used all the time, and it's all beautiful. Well, if it's a positive, there must be a negative. So to recognize the negative in someone too would be negative namaste. I recognize the oneness in you as positive. The negative would be, hey, negative namaste. I recognize the screwed up mess that is within you is also within me. And there's an ancient word from South America shamans. It's been around forever, and it sums these two up in one word, and that's called in Lakesh. En Lakesh simply means I see me and you. I see both as one. And that's bringing the whole thing together with the fear's just a return to love. Love is love, and bringing them together is a harmony which feels like ecstasy. I hope this makes sense to everybody. I welcome everyone into the Jamestown community to participate in the grand opening of the National Comedy Center. En Lakesh, love and light. And for the quote of the week, obviously it's from Lucille Ball, laughter's the best medicine. Choose to laugh. Thank you guys. Have a great week.